Hello, I'm Karma Kitaj. I'm your host for A Livelihood, New Adventures as We Age. And today I'm going to introduce you to Florence Goulet, who's going to tell us about all the wonderful things she's doing in her home country of Uganda. So welcome, Florence.
Thank you, Karma.
I'm so happy I finally got you here because it's been a little bit of a struggle because you were in Uganda for a while and doing your wonderful work there.
Yes, I'm glad. Yeah.
So now you and I met in kind of extraordinary circumstance at this very, very fancy over-the-top wedding.
I remember.
We had already talked, I think, about your supporting some children from your home village, I guess, in Uganda.
Yes.
And I was thinking, my goodness, the money that is being spent for this wedding could be supporting how many children? I don't know.
I support 19 children. Both of them are boys and girls. And those are the children I have been supporting for many years. And I have 5 children who are refugees from Congo. I support them, but I don't support them very much because they are in Kenya. So it's difficult for anybody to reach them. I just communicate with them. They don't speak much English, but I have found them teachers. I have found them. So they send me emails, surprisingly. And that's what I've been doing.
Florence, when you say you support them, in what manner do you support them?
I take the children to school. I make sure most of these children I take care of are orphans. They don't have parents. At first, I wanted to do it for girls. But when I saw how boys were are going to be forced into the army, or they are going to be, to be trafficked to some other countries for labor work, I just said, children are children, and every child deserves to be having both parents. And something just occurred to me, and one boy I first supported was James. He came from somewhere, and when I met him, I said he just looked weird. He was 13 years old, and when we opened the door in the morning, this boy was just standing there, and I thought it was someone who had come to steal or something. And when I looked at him, he said, "No, I'm looking for help." And I looked at him, I said, "Where do you come from? What help do you want?" And I said, "Okay, people are doing some work here. You go and work."
So it sounds like it's not only you who has gotten so passionate about helping the children, but you've enlisted your family too.
I have involved my family because when nobody can complain about helping people. My mother gathered people from all over. We grew up in a home full of people. We didn't know where people came from. Mother just said, "Okay, everybody in this home is my child, and I want everyone in this home, as you are leaving, I want everybody to go to school. I will try the best I can." And when they heard about school, they all ran away. Most of them ran away. They just wanted to stay home, eat, and just, And my mother said, "No, my children are going to school. You have to go to school like my children."
So I think you were telling me the other day, Florence, that I was asking you, so how is it that your family got so interested in educating all their children?
Both my mother and my father never went to school. My father.
So are you saying they didn't go at all?
They nothing. No, they were completely illiterate.
Right. So they don't know how to read or write.
They didn't read. They didn't write. My father was born. The minute my father was born, his mother died at childbirth, and he just stayed there by himself with his father. So my grandfather struggled with my father for a while. I think it was 6 months when he married another wife to come and help. And when the wife looked at my father, he said, "Who is this? I don't like this child." And so my grandfather's brother and his wife were passing by, and they said, "Okay, why don't you give us this child? And by the time my father was growing up, missionaries were going to my home area, putting people through school, and my father was not given a chance to go to school. My mother never went to school either, but my mother had a little knowledge about school because when she was a Catholic, when she went to a Catholic place to learn how to be baptized, they taught them how to read or write, but she didn't stay there to learn more because she had to go home and help her mother do things, and she got so inspired about.
But she got some exposure to.
Yes, she did. She saw
literacy.
Exactly. Right? So when I finished high school, I went to Kenya. And when I went to Kenya,
what made you go to Kenya?
I applied for a school which was like a kind of school that in Uganda they didn't have. And
What kind of a school was that?
It was a good school. They taught everything, and it was always like if you came out of that school, you got a very nice job. I didn't know.
So was it comparable to a college then?
Exactly. So I applied and they accepted me, and I went there. And when I went there, it was like double luck. It's completely good. It's so I said, my goodness, I should just look. I wanted to help people right away, but
Were there many other women there, Florence?
Yes, there were so many women in Kenya. When I was in Kenya, I was inspired by a woman called Professor Wangare Maathai, who was completely a very strong woman in Kenya.
So she was like a mentor to you.
Yes, I looked at that woman. I saw she feared nobody. She moved forward no matter what.
And she was a Kenyan?
She was a Kenyan, and she formed something called the Green Belt. It's hard to see women who are happy, especially where I come from, because I think the work of women is just to have children and just labor when their husbands do nothing.
So what do their husbands do?
Their husbands just drink and don't care. They just drink and beat their wives, and that's it.
Beat their wives?
Yes, they do. When I was growing up, my mother was really, really a good mother. She not only she mothered us, I think she mothered every woman in the village. Every woman who was being mistreated by her husband, she would just run to our house, and my mother would hide her. And she became a counselor to women. She became
like a battered women's shelter.
Exactly. She would protect women. She would just say, okay, if you are going to take your wife again and you are going to beat her, there is no need of you taking her. She's going to stay and she'll be happy.
But your father was not like the typical...
No way. My father was... Up to today, my father is a gentleman. I look at him and I see this is a good man. And I remember telling my mother, I said, you know, I wish I could get married to a man who is like my father. When I was like 13 years old. And my mother just looked at me and said, well, why? I said, because he doesn't abuse you. And she said, yeah, you are right.
So I just want to make sure that we talk about the fact that you are in the process of starting a foundation called Stella-Rosie.
Yes.
Stella for your mother, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And say something. So what will you hope the foundation will do?
Well, Stella-Rosie Foundation is going to be, I have a big vision for it because I want so many children to go to school.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes.
So how far along are you in the process of getting that foundation off the ground?
We are just waiting for the IRS to prove, for the taxes to be
approve the papers.
Exactly.
To make you a nonprofit, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But the state of Massachusetts, thank God, approved it. So it's just in the process of being finished.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming and talking about this. And
you are
welcome. I hope
welcome.
that people who are watching are going to keep this in mind, the Stella-Rosie Foundation, because it sounds like it might be up and running soon.